Yashoda, did anybody take your consent before inducing you?
No, not at all.
No. They never asked you, should they start your labor? What does it mean for you? It can be very, very painful. Be ready. Nothing. Just did it.
Nothing, nothing, nothing. Just asked me to plop up on the bed. I did, and the bag was broken, and that's all.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high. Yashoda had two different experiences of birth. One was with her firstborn in a hospital out of induction, and the second was in a birth center. She had vaginal births both time around. Then why did she choose to go to a birth center when she had her second? She also decided to take childbirth classes. She was well informed. She had the knowledge from the last birth, as well as she built herself a support system with a second birth that helped her tremendously change the experience. And she explains to us the differences in detail. The differences that are highlighted in this episode are of an induced birth and a spontaneous labor, why she decided to go to a birth center, what was the experience in the hospital that she wished there was some change in it, where did she feel that the experience in the hospital could have been better. Yashoda is a sports physiotherapist and an aquatic therapist who helps prenatal mums with pregnancy, and she works exclusively with Aastrika Midwifery Center now. And as the spring is officially starting in the northern part of India and the days are getting bigger, I've sprung into action. And I wanted to take a minute to offer you my mini course, which we started this year. This one is called the Labor Management Exclusive Program. This one is focused on how the body works during labor, as well as the natural coping mechanisms that you can embrace to help labor progress at its own natural, happy pace. This program, although a mini course, is still a 3-week long program and is a 6 hours plus program, couples exclusive training. It does include the core of both the other programs that are longer, which do have the extensive aspects of breastfeeding and postpartum with them. But this one essentially focuses on the use cases of normal for birth, natural pain management, how the body works, and how we can best support it. As well as there's a bonus breastfeeding session, like it's there with all my sessions, no matter what you do. Breastfeeding, a basic session is a must in all the programs. So if you want to explore this mini course that we launched this year or any other course that we already offer, you can go to the website www.birthagni.com/birth classes. And when you click on book your program, you'll be able to see all the programs that are out there. You can also go to my website and book a discovery call to be able to speak to me about your requirements, and we can tailor out a program that's best for you. And I also work like that. So excited to support you with all the 3 programs we have for labor and birth preparation. You can explore them from the website.
Hi, Yashoda.
Hi.
It is so good to see you. Yeah. And
Yeah, likewise.
I'm so grateful for you to be here with us. And like we discussed, we're going to listen to your birth story both time around, and specifically the difference between the first one where you were induced and the second time where it was a gentle birth at a birth center where there was a spontaneous birth.
Correct.
And you know, so much to share and explain to us. How does it feel like, and how can women make the right choices with informed decision making, and how the experiences can be different for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a wonderful journey. I actually think I'm lucky that I've experienced both, just so that I can value this a lot more than anyone experiencing a natural birth for the first time. Actually, both are good. Um, but if you know what choices you have, and if you know that such facilities are there and they are available, and also you can get help from somebody who can do this. This is mostly the only thing that I really want to share with everybody. That as women we have choices. It's not that we're traditionally used to certain ideas and thoughts, and we don't have to go through the rigorous method of birthing that everybody is used to, and birth stories may not be horror, and they may not be traumatizing. They can be blissful and serene, and it can be the other spectrum as well.
Yeah. So when you describe the first one, now the first sort of experience, the horror experience, what do you mean by that, and how would you elaborate that for us?
The first time around, it wasn't too bad actually, but I would say it was rather there was a lot of discomfort, and there were a lot of instances where I didn't have my say, so to speak. So I'm a physiotherapist, so I was quite fit, and I was working out, and I was very strong through my pregnancy, and I read a couple of books, and I thought I was prepped to go to labor, and I thought I had it all. Also, my doctor, she was very good, very encouraging. Though she comes from a traditional setup, she sees a lot of rural women, and she's used to doing a lot of vaginal births. So I was lucky that way that I had a vaginal birth, and she sort of was insisting on that, and she didn't push me to do a C-section, though my baby was quite big. So when the labor started and everything, the first thing, I was clueless. I didn't know when to go to the doctor, and that wasn't explained to me. And the other thing was, once the labor started, I just felt actually a little bit of leakage in that, and I knew this wasn't like a normal discharge. So it was a lot more. So I think my labor just started then in the morning. So I went to her, and then she said, okay, she just ruptured the membranes. I was clueless. I could feel a gush coming out, and I was plopped up on the bed. I had no clue what was going to happen to me. And yeah, so this had started, and then she asked my mother to get my stuff in while I get admitted. So I immediately got admitted. And yeah, and then they started an IV line of induction. So I was pretty much on the bed throughout the day, with contractions happening every 30 seconds, and that whole process was a little antagonizing, because it's contractions coming and going, and there's no relief at all. So it was quite painful that way.
Yashoda, did anybody take your consent before inducing you?
No, not at all.
No. They never asked you, should they start your labor? What does it mean for you? It can be very, very painful. Be ready. Nothing. Just did it.
Nothing. Just asked me to plop up on the bed. I did, and the bag was broken, and that's all. And I was just given instructions. I think it's also. I wouldn't blame the doctor. I feel it's just their protocol. That's what they do. You know, they do day in day out. They conduct so many deliveries, so this is like the norm for them. And I don't know. I feel collectively we need to tell doctors, or we need to raise the bar, at least for what we want, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in a way, I feel it's my mistake that I didn't ask her questions beforehand. So I would, for anyone who's listening to this, I would ask them to, have your set of questions ready. Ask the doctor, when do I come and what do I do, that sort of thing. Since this was my first birth, it was 5 years ago, so I had no clue. And even in social media, I didn't see something like this. I think now it's also getting a lot more popular. People are getting more educated. So that's another thing that I like to mention. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just one of the things that I wanted to also put across is I wanted to ask you how long back was it? Because the government of India does give this as another guideline that you cannot induce a woman without taking her consent, because induction can have the downside wherein the heartbeat of the baby plummets, like it did in my case. It can
Okay.
it can cause fetal distress, and there's a 50% chance of that, which is the number that a doctor gave to one of my moms when she was like, I'm not going to be induced. And she's like, you're gonna cause fetal distress. And then the doctor was, oh yeah, it causes 50%. There's a 50% chance.
Okay.
So that's not my number. So if that's wrong, it's not my number, but it does cause fetal distress. So the government of India or the WHO, I would say, there are norms, there are protocols that say that you have to take explicit consent from the mom if you have to induce her.
Okay.
But that's something that is not happening, which is concerning.
Yeah.
And yeah, there has to be more regulation of the obstetrical or the maternity care model in terms of surveillance or reinforcing what is already there, at least, in the least,
Correct. Yeah.
in terms of informed consent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are things going then? Did anybody ask you to move around at least?
No, not at all. Actually, uh, in fact, what happened was that since I'd read a little and I knew that it's good to move around and, gravity positions are good for birthing, things like that. And I knew that maybe that wouldn't happen. So until then, I tried to go into all fours and everything. When I did, a sort of rocking sort of movement on all fours on the bed there, I got scolded by the sister. She she scolded me and she said, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. You're on IV line and the baby's head will turn wonky and what are you doing and all that." And actually, my baby was a little bit heavy, and then when the baby was born, the head was slightly conical. So then she was like, "See, this happened because you moved around and all of that."
Yashoda, I'll stop you there because I want to tell everybody that's very normal.
Yeah.
A conical head in proportion to the pelvis sometimes happens because the bones of the baby are soft
Correct.
and they can mold, they can slide over each other,
Yeah.
which is how big babies can be absolutely born. There's nothing wrong with big babies, they are healthy babies, and we would like chubby, healthier babies as much as. I mean, that's a good sign. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so the conical head is physiological normal behavior, which is great, which tells us that the body and the baby already knows that the head needs to mold to be born. It's the nature knows that the head needs to be soft
Correct.
and it can slide. Bones are not fixed like ours.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a magical thing.
So that. And I was also given enema during this whole thing. I was put on an adult diaper with an enema given. And it was so uncomfortable to take that off. And, there's no control when you're passing. It is too uncomfortable to say the least. Yeah. This is also another practice that I know is not really recommended now. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did the birth look like? How did it happen? How much time did it take?
So yeah, I was induced in the morning by around 9 o'clock, and by 12, the contractions started peaking, and every 30 seconds I was getting a contraction, and it this continued until 9 p.m. So so the whole day there was contraction. I wasn't given any break, and maybe a little break to sort of breathe, but then I wasn't given any food, nothing. So this kept happening. So I sort of took a little break, and then in by around 9 o'clock, I think the doctor came and she said, "Okay, we can start pushing now." By then, I think the contractions also started increasing a little, and I was dilated by evening or so. So I was dilated by around 5 centimeters by evening. By night at 9 o'clock, I was dilated completely. So then they took me to another place in the with the stirrups in the lithotomy position. I had two people at the back, two people in between, three people in front with the doctor, and they all were pushing. It was like a sort of a race where they're asking me to push, 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 and I, whenever I feel the contraction, I push, and uh, it felt like one big sort of exercise with everybody asking me to push together. So that sort of a thing. That phase I sort of liked. It felt a little energetic and you know I was all ready to push by then. I was done with the pain and the contractions. So then I pushed with all my might, and then there was a point when I told her that you're not going to do an episiotomy, right? She said, "Let's see about that." And then she asked me, "Why not?" I said, "I'm just scared that it may tear a little bit more than necessary, or whatever." So she said, after a point, she just, did the episiotomy. And then a junior doctor was like, "But she told not to do." She's like, "I'm not going to listen to her," you know. And maybe she thought she did what was right. The baby was sort of big, and the episiotomy maybe speeded it up a little more and sort of thing. But my point was, to tell it nicely rather than telling it like that.
Yeah, and I always, I think in a couple of episodes before this also, there was a mom. I think it was also about induction and a birth where she was not induced, where the junior doctor was very supportive, was very, she had the heart, and she was like, oh, I mean, give her more time because with induction also sometimes it can take time, right? The body still
Mm-hmm.
will take its own due course to birth, and there's no rush there shouldn't be any rush to make it happen
Mm.
because it will eventually if the baby and the mother are okay and they are not giving up. So the junior doctor was very she was the one who kind of vouched for the mom, and she's like,
Mm.
yeah, doctor, she's gonna be okay. You don't worry, I'm here. I'm gonna take the charge, and she did take the charge because the senior doctor was not. He was like, just another mom might go on. I mean, it's very discouraging. It's not supportive. It's not positive.
Yeah, that's what even I wanted to say, that, if everybody is supportive, everybody is around there to help birth the mother, but if they give her a little more support, that little moral support that she needs, then it'll be so much more nicer, much more an experience that she can remember fondly than having certain traumatized events here and there.
Yeah. Not a motoric event, no. We are not motors. We are human beings.
Correct.
Our body will work,
Yeah.
bases our mind. So I'm happy that the junior doctors they have the heart in the beginning and the passion and the will to go to an extent to be able to help the mom. But I think after this, after some time, it just becomes so mechanical.
Yeah.
And I hope the junior doctors stay with their heart and listen to the mom and also know that, by books, episiotomy is really outdated.
Hmm.
It's no longer required, even with babies. What was the weight of the baby?
My baby was 3.6 kg.
Wow, lovely. So even with a baby of the weight 3.5 or more, 4, it's not required as such, and women may not even tear. And you were right when you said, I may tear more, or I may not tear without that also, without an episiotomy. So you were right. You were informed, and episiotomy is outdated. So junior doctors may be updated with the current information, and they'll be like, "Oh, she didn't want it. Why did we just do it?" I hope they keep the heart. I hope they change their practice. They make their own practice basis, their learning, their empathy down the line. Because we do need doctors. It's not the science that is um, it's a boon to us, but not for low risk mothers. It's there to
Mhm.
cater to high risk mums who, not mums, I would still say high risk situations wherein the mother and the baby need help of a surgeon because that's what obstetricians are. They are surgeons.
Mhm.
And so for normal births, why not let us just go with the more community based support, which was
Mhm.
your second birth experience.
My only thing is, I want to thank the doctor. She let me have a vaginal birth at least. Otherwise most doctors get tired by the end of the day and they push for a C-section. So she let me have a vaginal birth, which is something I really wanted. So that's as long as the outcome was good, I was happy after all. But I had another thing to say, that after the birth, immediately they took the baby to the NICU. And I was so pissed. I knew the importance of colostrum and how important it is for the baby to feed and everything. The first feed my baby got was formula. This is something that I really didn't like. I didn't mind the whole birthing process. This is something that I really wanted and I valued. They gave him a healthy baby. There was nothing wrong with him at all. He was just lying in the ICU for nothing. And they gave him a formula, and of course, by the next day, the sister started scolding me, and they're like, "Oh, it's just water, and you're not getting any milk." And that and the baby was not latching well. So it took me around 10 days to get the latch fixed with, so many nipple issues, cracking and things like that. Just that little, that time, they didn't even let me hold him. They just kept him close to him and they took him away. That phase I don't like. The rest of it I don't mind even.
Yeah.
But I knew how important, colostrum is for the baby and the first feed of the baby and that bonding and that. So this may be another, routine in the hospital, something that they just follow for all babies.
I do understand. I do see where the rush for cesarean sections, the time, the convenience comes in. So the doctors may decide on the behalf of the parents that we'll go for a surgery because it's taking time.
Yeah,
But breastfeeding is an after service and it can absolutely be done in a lot more gentler way,
yeah,
even in the system. And it needs a shift of approach in realizing that there's something that is not happening right.
hmm.
And breastfeeding is not a big issue. Breastfeeding is not happening well because the initial support, like you said, the first 10 minutes, the first 2 hours, the first couple of hours of the baby is with the mum. The sense of separation doesn't go to the baby because the baby is also like, oh my God, I was just born, where's my mum?
Yeah,
That creates a sense of attachment, like detachment, where is my mum? And same with the mother, I just gave birth, I did all this, where is my baby?
yeah. And that state you're in, that happy high, even the baby's alert, even the mother's alert. I think that's the perfect time to start breastfeeding. Then the baby gets drowsy. How will the baby latch on then?
Yeah, and that's very important to mention that you did, Yashoda, that the baby does not latch because the baby goes into recovery sleep.
Yeah,
After birth, the first 2 hours, the baby will latch, have a stomach full of colostrum, which is milk, which is not nothing. You have milk. The mother's
which is not water.
yeah, which is not water. And once the baby is full on that, the baby goes into 8, 9, 10, 12 hours of sleep, which is, and for a healthy baby, it's absolutely okay. For a baby, 3.6 kgs, absolutely okay to allow baby to sleep on the mother's chest next to the mother for 10, 12 hours. And when the baby wakes up, the baby is hungry. The baby is going to drink a lot after that. So it's yeah, after that, the baby latches. So it becomes a vicious cycle of negative understanding of the entire process. Oh, the baby is not latching. Now that builds an entire image in the mother's brain that there's something wrong. My baby is not latching.
Correct.
Wherein the baby is just sleeping. The baby is not ready yet.
Yeah.
So after 10, 12 hours, the baby becomes ready and the baby opens the mouth and the baby takes the feed. So it's, yeah, I think, yeah, he needs to have a more physiological shift to how medicine or maternal care in the medicine in the medical world is working.
Yeah.
Very, very much needed.
Correct. And this is also what I think the nurses have been doing for years, and they think that's it's okay and that's the norm and that's how it should be done. Forcefully expressing, that's so painful when you pinch and you do a manual expression, trying to express milk out and trying to feed that with a spoon to the baby. So that's so unnecessary. And then to scold the mother that you're not getting any milk now. So
It's not your fault.
yeah, and that's how they switch to formula. Most mothers, I think, another day or two, I would have given up. Saying I'm not getting any milk and I'll switch to formula. I already had done that for a couple of days when the latch wasn't happening and I thought the baby was hungry. So we did a lot of formula feeds the first few days, and then you would think why the baby is not accepting breast milk now.
Yeah, all a vicious circle, creating problems and then going to solve them and then calling the mother out. All a mother needs is reassurance, both for birth and for breastfeeding. Because mostly everything is going well.
Yeah.
It's just because we are it doesn't seem like
Hmm.
and there's not enough right information with the nurses about breastfeeding. And there is WHO's initiative to have breastfeeding baby friendly hospitals wherein nurses should be trained in breastfeeding.
Yeah.
They should be able to support the mothers better, to just tell them this is how a good latch looks like, this is how you'll hold the baby, this is how you'll do it, it's okay, try, keep trying, it will happen tomorrow, you have milk, a drop of milk is enough.
Yeah.
because it's enough.
I know this because we did this with, as physiotherapists, we have a rotation where we go to the gynecology ward as well, the birthing ward also. And we've done this to so many mothers. I know it. And then it's so frustrating when your baby is not latching onto. This is something you teach all mothers. And then you get scolded that there's no milk coming out and that uh, a little bout of mastitis and everything engorged breast. Those issues, horde of issues that come again, with not with improper breastfeeding and latching.
Yeah.
So I had to face all of that. So that's the only thing that I didn't like about this whole thing. Otherwise, I didn't mind the lithotomy. I didn't mind any of those other things.
I think that with the baby friendly hospital initiative, what is still happening at the back end is that the papers are being signed, a board is set up, a board is, I mean, a hoarding is, or how do I say it? It's framed and written that it's a baby friendly hospital.
Correct.
And when you go and ask in, they tell you it's all been signed by the doctors who are in connection and nobody has been trained.
Okay.
Nobody has done the work. It's just another corporate system where, oh my God, we had to do this, we had to do the audit. It's done.
Okay.
It's done. Somebody has done it. And the board is there.
Okay.
So it's sad. I mean, nobody is getting the right service out of this, and nobody loses anything if if the mother is helped with breastfeeding.
Correct.
And it's so simple and straightforward. I think we definitely can maintain or practice, I would rather say. We can practice a little more compassion there.
Yeah.
A little more compassion and a little more education and help the mother in the first few days. Like you said, these are man-made issues now.
Correct.
Mastitis and this and that. ये हमारे टाइम पर नहीं होता था, ये अब क्यों हो रहा है? वो इसलिए हो रहा है because the nurses and the system is not supportive.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed, which is not physiological birth supportive.
And the new mom knows nothing. So, I think educating the mother, that's also important. For mothers to learn to know what they have to go through and how to do it again. Yeah, that little step helps.
Yeah. How was it the second time around?
It was completely different. So, uh, I I knew Dr. Janvi. I knew her because I had seen her during her pregnancy. We did aquatherapy, aqua fitness classes when she was pregnant. So when she set up a center, when I knew that she was setting up a center, I was thrilled. So eventually, in a year's time, I got pregnant. I knew this is the place I want to be. And also, I saw Anushriti's posts on that, so I'm ever so grateful to her. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that a setup like this has been done. So we saw these posts, and then I went to them, and my family was still skeptical because they were like, "What's the difference? Anyway, you've had a normal birth, so any hospital you can get a normal birth. Why do you want to stay back here?" And my mother is in another town, so she was asking me to come over there. So I had to show them around this place, and once they saw the place, they were all convinced. Okay, they were like, okay, this is maybe like how we did in the older times, but of course, it's more sophisticated, it's cleaner, the place looks so much calmer um, with the lights, the props, everything that is centered around the birthing woman. And they give you so much of information, they introduce you to doulas, they introduce you to different people. So, there's also a physiotherapist support to help in case of any aches and pains for fitness, things like that. So there's so much of knowledge sharing, empowering the mother, so much of that. So they also did a birth plan with me. So they shared pros and cons of what's supposed to be and what not, and also how to go about it and when to come and when the labor starts, what to do and everything. And also in between, I think in the last few days, my baby was in an occiput posterior position. So then they also helped me with that. Gave certain exercises, asked me to eat dates, certain things to speeden up labor. So also perineal massages, things like that, I was told. So we did a lot of those things, and I feel it all helped. During so in the night by around 2 o'clock in the night, I started getting contractions, and I knew that this is something different. This isn't like a backache. This isn't like a tummy, pain or anything. So then I stayed through the night, and also I have to thank Neha Mishra. I did a sort of education class with her. So she also told me that in the first stage in the of labor, you don't really tell anybody. Keep it to yourself. When you know that the contractions get a little stronger, then you tell everyone in the house about it. So until 8 o'clock or so, I didn't tell anyone at home. Um, and by around 9 o'clock, I told things started moving fast. Everybody got alert. They were all getting ready for the baby, things like that. So meanwhile, I informed my doctor, and she told me to come when the contractions are a little more closer. So when I went to the doctor, the doctor didn't know that I was in labor. She didn't. Maybe I didn't look like I was in labor. So she said, "Okay, if the labor hasn't started, we can do a membrane sweep or something to just speeden it up." And then she checked me up. I was already 6 centimeters dilated. So she's like, "Yeah, you're in active labor. Let's start it." And they took me to the room, and asked me what I want to eat. They gave me a sipper bottle to drink water with, and they had all the balls, the birthing stool. They had those ropes hang where I could squat and lean on and things like that. Um, yeah, my husband also was a great support at that time. Though he didn't know what to do, he was sort of clueless. So in the end, I was like, the massages, all that wasn't really helping. So then I said, "Can you take a video when I'm birthing?" So he took the video, which was great. Yeah, and then when the contractions, when I was fully dilated, then the doctor came in and she was like, "You wanted to have a water birth. Why didn't you get into water yet?" I thought I had to wait a little longer. So then she said, "You're already dilated, fully dilated." So then they filled the. It was quite funny. From all the rooms, they started getting hot water to fill the tub up, and
Quickly, do it quickly now.
quickly, yeah. So I got into water, and then in like two pushes, she was out.
Wow.
Yeah, she had two rounds of cord around her neck, so they helped pull it out so she could come all the way to my chest. Yeah, and then I started experiencing pain. Until then, it was all okay. I think I may have cut a little. So then the pain started. So, but it was magical. It was beautiful.
Wow. So, how was the pain different from the first time around? And one more thing, I want you to explain everyone how OP is different from a normal head down position and how that can be.
Yeah. So this one was sunny side up, where the baby's face is in front. The baby was head down, but the baby's face is in front. So then to turn around, I had to be in sort of anterior tilt posture, and I did a couple of lateral movements, things like that to get the baby. So this I did for around 3 to 4 days, and I think during the birth, it she sort of turned. I could maybe sense it or something. Felt that, and this was during active labor that I felt her, because even then the doctor said maybe she's still OP when she checked me when I was 6 centimeters.
So, OP is not really an issue to giving birth vaginally. The pain can be slightly different. It can be a lot more back pain for some mothers when the baby is OP because the baby is born. Just to add to that issue, just to for the listeners to understand the basics because they might not know that they when they give birth, the baby's face is facing your back. The baby actually doesn't face your face when it comes out.
Yeah.
The baby faces your back when the baby comes out in the cephalic, the head down position that they call the most optimum. But yeah, OP babies can also turn. Wow. Yes. Babies can turn at any time. Breech babies can turn during labor. That also happens.
Oh wow.
Labor does that work. Yeah, breech babies turn. And yeah, so anything can happen. So giving the mother the chance to just undergo labor is the bare minimum we can do that.
Yeah.
Because we already have all those facilities of emergency. The best scenario at the moment with all the medical help is to have every mother go into labor spontaneously.
Yeah.
If we could do that, it will be a very different scenario.
Yeah. And I even like this thing about Aastrika Midwifery Center. That's where I birthed. That they also have an OT there. So in case of emergencies, mothers can be assured that there's also medical facility and doctors and experienced doctors that can handle even difficult situations. So it's a wonderful place, I must say. Must visit for any expecting mother.
Yeah, Dr. Janvi, when she was here on the podcast, she shared how she came into this birth work because she's a researcher
Can.
by profession, and she when she was giving birth at that time, she did not want an episiotomy,
Yeah.
and nobody. She went from Mumbai to Bangalore. I think all the top doctors, but nobody would agree to an episiotomy not being done to her.
Hmm.
And because she's a researcher, she has access to all these research papers, and she knew that this should not be done.
Yeah.
And she realized that how much the Indian medical system is not practicing by the guidelines, and something needs to be changed. And that's how Aastrika Midwifery Center came into being. So yeah. So how was it different? The pain was different the first time around and the next time.
Yeah. So here, like I told you, it started in the night at 2 o'clock, and then it was. I would say it was maybe because I'm a second time mother. They say it's easier. I'm not sure, but I felt it was really bearable. You know, even until active labor, I was getting surges, but they were. It wasn't like pain. It was different. It didn't feel like pain at all. So it felt like some discomfort, like an electric current, like a shock. It like it felt like a contraction coming in and going. And also, when not being induced, when it's a natural birth, there's so much of rest that you get. There's so much of gap in between, breathing space, things that you can do in between. You can, even maybe take a small nap. You can have a nice hot shower. I did so much of all of that, and all of those helped in between. You can also clear your bowels. You don't have to, get enema done. You can do so many things in between. When the early stage of labor, there's so much time for you to do all of that, and you're also mentally prepared. You're setting your body right. So I feel this it helped a lot. Though I would say in the active stage the pain was a little intense. I could have managed it with say I could have been a little more calmer and things like that. But maybe my baby was in a rush to come out, so it speeded up a lot. So I didn't have that breathing space in between. And also, I think I sort of panicked a little, and I was like, it's too painful. I held, and I was in a little bit of tensed for a couple of contractions, and then the midwife came, and she assured me that it's okay, take deep breaths, and that support is what you really need. Just to say that it's okay, this is okay, and it's normal to have it and breathe. That's all you need, you know. And Neha's words kept echoing in my mind. She was, those I did a lot of affirmations and things like that. So even those kept coming back to me, and I think that helped.
Did you, so the first time around you couldn't eat. This time you could do a lot of things throughout labor.
Yeah.
It was intense and there was a little break towards the end. There wasn't enough break towards the end
Yeah.
when it was a spontaneous labor. The first time around, there were no breaks in between, right?
No breaks at all. The whole 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock of 30 seconds contraction every. So I was timing it. My aunt was there with me, so she was timing it. She's like, okay, tell me when your contractions start. It started. It would last for a minute or two, and then 30-second break, and then it starts again. She's like, I think you're coming close, but then it wasn't close at all. You know, I wasn't even dilated enough then. So that whole thing was for hours together. Whereas this was sort of bearable. I went into the hospital by around 11:30, and by 2 o'clock she was out.
Wow. And did you roar the first time around? Were you able to vocalize? Like, for example, this time you were
Yeah.
saying that it's painful, you were using your voice. In, that's what I assume. The first time around, were you able to do it? Because, yeah.
Um, I think the first time, the last bit, like I told you, I felt a lot more energetic. I felt like, okay, now I have to do it, and I was all prepped up, and that support of people around me, they were all encouraging actually. So it felt like, it was like the end of the workout. You have three, four reps left. Do it, and everyone's pushing you. It felt something like that, like a summit to climb and you're almost there, sort of a thing. So I was quite prepped, and each time they sort of helped me to sit up, and I did like a half crunch, and I pushed. They asked me to clench and push and all of that. So I sort of pushed, and sometimes they were like, "Oh, you're doing the wrong thing." And so anyway, the point is that it was, that felt nice. The second time around, it felt a little painful actually, the active birthing. I was moving around and everything. But once I got into water, it was beautiful. It felt like somebody's hugging me, and the warmth felt really nice. That sense of being in warm water, I think it also relaxes you a little. It puts you at ease. So there I was in on all fours, and there was this point when the contractions became really loud, and I roared. Like you said, I roared. I felt like an animal that time. There was this one big roar that I gave, and the next time I shifted and I went into a squat posture, and in a deep squat is when I birthed her. It felt like it's going to go on a lot, but it happened too quickly. The second push, and she was out. Second contraction around.
Wow. So you moved positions on your own intuitively?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, lovely. So this time you were not in a lithotomy, meaning you were not lying on your back, you were moving around.
Yeah, and this helps a lot. This is so beautiful. Your body sort of, in a way, knows what to do. You just have to. I feel just closing your eyes and looking inwards will give you a lot of answers than looking around at people, looking at different things and panicking. You know, the second when the last bit started, when I was in when I was in water, I think it's also the urgency, the that moment of it that makes you look inwards. I was all into myself then, and that gave me the answer. My body knew what to do, sort of. And even otherwise, in the active stage, when I was moving around, something was telling me to move sideways, something was telling me to rock back and forth. So I did a lot of back and forth in the early stage. I did a lot of sideways in the active stage. Now, when I read about it, I knew that, this is how it's supposed to be done actually. So my body knew all along, and that's so miraculous.
Miraculous. Yeah. So the second time around it was magical. The first time around, were you able to connect to yourself? Or did it feel like something happening from outside?
Yeah, it just felt like I was given instructions and I did accordingly.
Yeah.
We are quite good with that as well, as kids, and as always, you're told do this, and maybe that gives a sense of clarity. You just follow along and you do. But things can go wrong, and then you feel helpless. Luckily, it went well for me. This time, I had a choice. I had options. They asked me if I want to eat. They asked me if I want to move around. They asked me to go empty my bladder. They asked me to do things which felt good. Just sitting on the pot felt really good, and maybe that increased, that sort of speeded up the labor as well. And also,
It does.
yeah, when I went in, I was, like I told you, 6 centimeters dilated. And then Janvi came to me and she said, "Okay, do you want to speeden it up? Do you want to do some duck walks and things like that?" I said, "Okay." And then I did around like 10 counts of 60 walks, and I did lots of those. And she's like, "Okay, I think you're done here." I was more than ready. I was quite, this felt so good because I could move around with each contraction. When a contraction came, I stopped, I breathed. Yeah, I think this one was too beautiful. It was too magical, and I have a lot of people to thank for that.
Yeah, of course. This was more physiological. This was birth supportive. All that happened was how birth is supposed to happen. And to add to the last bit, it reminds me of how birth used to happen in the olden times when the intensity would really increase towards the end. Now it can increase and it can almost come to a halt also for some women,
Hmm.
where if they are tired, they might the body slows down. sometimes towards the end, where it gives the women a chance to sleep or rest if they are already very tired. That also happens. It's a range of normal.
Hmm.
And for sometimes it just goes on in a linear fashion. It keeps increasing, and then towards the end, the intensity is high. So back in those days, they used to have the drums. It's called drumming, and
Hmm.
they used to chant and drum and sing, and all the songs, the tribal songs. They used to do that towards the end to help the adrenaline, which naturally rises in a woman when she's giving birth. It helps the adrenaline and that energy of, yes, you're giving birth, and
Mm-hmm.
that helps the woman work with the pain, the roaring and the chanting, and all together kind of feels like energetic, like you said. So it used to be done in the olden times. So it reminds me of that, and I think that also we can add in the support now
Yeah.
in the physiological birth from your story. That makes me feel, and yeah, it's a lovely input.
Yeah, I think now that you say the first time around, I felt that adrenaline in my first birth because there were so many people asking me to push, 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 push. They were all, it felt like a chant, everyone asking me to push together. They did it in one unified voice. And maybe that whole night I was in that rush. I couldn't sleep that night. I was in that happy high.
Yeah, the bliss of birth that happens, and that can happen in a physiologically supportive birth also,
Yeah.
wherein we don't ask the mother to push, her body does on its own,
Hmm.
but we can chant, we can sing, we can roar with her if it definitely helps her, and she feels she likes it. We can definitely do that, and I think it would be a good exercise to try out. Yeah, and how was the breastfeeding this time around?
This was so beautiful. So as soon as she birthed, the doctor, the pediatrician was so good. She put the baby. I think my baby first did skin to skin with my husband while I was being. So I teared up a little. So while I was being sutured, she did skin to skin contact with my husband, and yeah, once that was done, they put her on me, and she sort of crawled up to my breast, and she breastfed there.
On her own?
Yeah. It almost felt like she crawled up and, she did it by herself. I nudged her up towards,
That's a breast crawl.
yeah. And she breastfed, and it was so beautiful. It happened. And I didn't have any issues with her. No nipple issues, no latching issues, nothing.
Yeah. That's what gentle birth does to the baby and to the mother. And explain skin to skin contact with the fathers. We do teach them in childbirth classes, but yeah, just for the listeners because we mentioned.
Yeah. So this soon after birth, she was wiped a little, and then she was put directly on the husband on her father's chest. So he didn't have any clothing on, and they wrapped them around. So he sort of held her for a while, and even now she's more attached to him than me. So yeah, I think it's, and then everybody keeps telling that, see, this is because he did it first. But having him, him having it experienced for the first time, he didn't, but for this time he did. So he said he found it too beautiful as well. That he could hold a newborn, to have those tiny little things. That it's so frail and so small and so beautiful to have that thing with you. That sense of love, that care, the affection that comes, that sense of bonding is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's incredible, and we do need to include fathers in the process where they see how birth happens. Yeah, so lovely. Breast crawl happens, yes. So babies know they have the innate reflex to latch and breastfeed on their own, and they forget after some time
Hmm.
because the reflex is not strengthened. They remember it. Human babies can also do that. It's just that we're not anymore carry mammals. We don't have the fur. We're not animals the way we were, but the reflexes and the DNA and the programming is still there. So how we experienced the breast crawl, which is magical.
Yeah, and also maybe that's why the areola gets darker so they can identify it and be closer. Yeah.
That's the reason. That's the exact reason. Areola gets darkened for the very same reason.
Mm.
You have lumps on your breast, little bumps, are which produce the smell of the amniotic fluid, which is unique to you and the baby. So the baby sniffs on their fist
Okay.
when they are doing the breast crawl, and then they
Mm-hmm.
crawl. They also have the crawling reflex as a newborn.
Correct.
They try and crawl, even if you put them. face down. They will try and crawl wherever they are because they have that crawling reflex, which they forget and which comes back at around 6 months again.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if I put it in a way that the design and the process is already written somewhere in all of us, and we all are following it, including the baby. So the baby knows what needs to be done.
Correct.
Imagine a newborn
Yeah.
knows what needs to be done, and the newborn did the work of birthing. The newborn
Correct.
moved themselves from the pelvis. They came out, they twisted, and they did rotations to come out. It's I don't know what to say. It's just I don't know what it is. It's just beyond us and beyond our logical minds to fathom.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you like to say to new mums, Yashoda, who are pregnant right now? And sometimes when I do talk to them, I do speak about the medical system and the routines and the protocols. You were in good hands in the way that the doctor would go to any extent for a vaginal birth if that is what a woman wants. But sometimes it's also something that is based on luck. If the doctor has to go somewhere, the doctor might not wait as long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what would you? So I do talk a lot about all these things, and some days I think that I've scared the mother, which I didn't want to, but at the same time, it's the truth. It's not something that is a lie. It's very authentic, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to support women if they want to know more. But at the same time, how what do you think women should early on, especially in the first trimester, do beginning their journeys into pregnancy and birth?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say for any expecting mother, see most of them go to a doctor that they trust. This is somebody that their family has known or they are recommended to by somebody or the doctor is very reputed. They go to somebody like that. Nobody wants to go to a doctor who's very rigid and everything. So they go to somebody trusting them, you know. But as much as the doctor is nice to you during your visits and everything, during labor, it all changes because the doctor themselves have to follow certain protocols. Either they are used to it or they go to a facility where they have certain things in place, and that's how things have to be done. So I think it's because it's a facility driven or certain practice driven that doctors do certain things. Okay, even if they are good and they're very good and they are very experienced and everything. So I would say if the mother is educated enough, the mother knows what to do, what not to do. She has her choices. If she presents them to the doctor in a nice way, asks her if such things can be accommodated, or have somebody like a doula who can help her during the birthing process, who will obviously do non-medical things. So the doctor doesn't have to have any objection against that. So if she has some sort of support, or she comes with certain backing, and she can ask the doctor if certain things can be done in certain ways. I feel skin to skin contact. These are basic things. Even in any birth, it should happen ideally. You know, so if such things are permissible, and even if it's a C-section, so if a gentle C-section can be done, things like that, or if the mother's allowed to move at least during active labor or in early labor, things like that, if she can ask her. So I feel for women to be educated and to have a birth plan of their own, to know what they want, and then to talk out to the doctor, to ask them if such things can be possible. Because most of the cases, the doctor, when the labor starts, they ask them to come right away to the center.
This is not something that used to happen earlier. Earlier, doctors used to say, don't come until and unless you're really in pain and can't bear it anymore.
Yeah.
This is something that should also, I think, change.
Yeah, as soon as labor starts, they ask the doctor and they ask them to come right away. And of course, when you go to a center, you don't feel safe, you don't feel, again, you're bound by protocol. They'll give you a certain time, and if you're not out by then, they say meconium, or they give you some sort of, reason, and then induction happens, and things go spirally down in the wrong way. So one thing is, if there's a birthing center around something like Aastrika around you, or you have like somebody like a doula, or you are educated enough to give your stance out, ask for certain things. I feel that sort of education can change, at least from the mother's perspective. And if you say when she's what should she do when she's pregnant? I would say to stay active. This is coming as a physiotherapist, so I would say to stay active throughout pregnancy, to be to follow her innate self, to do a lot of affirmations, to be mindful of what she's doing, to go inwards and because parenting hits you hard. If you don't know yourself, then all of your childhood stuff will come back to you. So this is a good time to go inwards, you know, do a lot of mindfulness work, do a lot of guided meditations. There's so much available online. You can do hypnobirthing if that's okay with you. You can, learn breathing techniques. You can learn do pranayama. You can do a lot of things like that. You can also get uh, stronger, fitter, do pregnancy yoga, do exercises, do whatever you can in the physical sense, get stronger. That will again, you'll know how, what, once you know what exercises feel like, you'll also know that during labor you won't give up easily. That's what I feel. Having that resilience physically will give you that mental push that you need during labor.
Yeah, the discomfort, the ability to sit with discomfort is something that workout, exercise, yoga can give you. The only thing that I now say all the time is exercise alone will not give you natural vaginal birth because there's so much that is also there, like you said, the protocols, the knowledge, and I like birth plans also because, and I always suggest mums who have already finalized a hospital and they come to me for the classes. I don't dictate where they should birth, and of course it's their story and where they feel more safe with. Like they should feel safe within themselves to be able to birth
Correct.
naturally. But I do like sending in birth plans very early on, like discussing them at 8 months
Correct.
itself. So when you start asking questions, no, it also helps us connect better with the doctor to understand where they stand.
Yeah.
Because in a regular 5 minute meetup, you will not be able to understand whether they are really inclined for a vaginal birth and they plan their own cesarean sections because they think that's safe.
Correct.
It's safe to have a cesarean section. It's convenient to have a cesarean section, and they might put across their biases on you because they're human beings.
Yeah.
So when we discuss that earlier on, it really helps figure out, okay, oh my God, I don't think so. We align
Yeah.
as team because, and then you have enough time to be able to look for a second opinion and find someone else without being in a crunch situation and with the stress of, oh my God, I'm going to give birth. I did so much to find this doctor, and now what? So all along when you take childbirth classes, asking doctors questions, that's my favorite thing to guide parents on.
Yeah. And I would also recommend mothers, as a new mother, you have no clue. And there are books don't give you any answers, if you're not reading the right kind of books. Taking up these classes, I would strongly recommend mothers taking up birth education classes. They are a starting point for you to understand your body, understand how labor works, understand what to do, at certain times. And I feel that it's very important to just take up these classes in the first place.
Yeah, I think so too. And the first thing that I felt when I had an unnecessary cesarean was, and Megha was there. She's a childbirth educator in India, and she was there on the podcast. And I was like, I didn't know. I read a big fat book. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I thought this big fat book has given me all the information that I needed about birth, but it's not structured. It's not very convincing sometimes. It's just polishes. I think it doesn't speak. It sugarcoats the truth also sometimes. It's trying to tell you that you need to do these things, but it also says, the doctor will be supportive. Also, it's not your place. It's not, a lot of books are written in the West.
Correct.
So they also don't have the cultural aspects of your own country. So working with somebody who has an understanding of your own country's system, that also helps. So yeah, I like that advice. Yeah, and what do you suggest about the pregnancy discomforts and in terms of physiotherapy, how women can? So a lot of women have now started exploring physiotherapy for pregnancy discomforts, etc. What do you suggest as a whole from your practice that you see is lacking in terms of awareness when it comes to physiotherapy and um, pregnancy and birth. Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, any aches and pains, any niggles, uh, you know, all of those can be treated. You can overcome those. You can get a lot more stronger. And pregnancy comes with its own, physiological changes, even physical changes in the sense. With the growing belly, there are a lot of biomechanical changes that happen in the body, leading to a lot of discomforts. For people who are, who need that help, this is a great tool that helps you get active, get stronger. It helps you ease your pain, things like that. But also, physiotherapy also offers. There are exercises and fitness that you can do during pregnancy, and this is sort of curated around the mother. It's not like a general one size fits all sort of an exercise that's given. So based on your physical needs, based on we do an assessment beforehand. So based on that, what muscles are weak, what muscles are strong, what muscles are tight, what muscles need more flexibility. We give exercises based on that, and also exercises that can help you during labor. So in the first stage of labor, what do you do? What do you do during active labor? So exercises that help you during labor as well, and also start educating the mother about do's and don'ts during pregnancy, posture, ergonomics, things like that. So there's a lot that physiotherapists offer, and this comes from a place that is studied well, where there's a lot of knowledge gained, and that knowledge is given out to the mothers. So it's not like a general class where exercises are done and you go away. It also comes with things that are curated just for you. So I feel it's a very important and it's a nice tool that every mother should be aware of.
One of the things that a lot of women today have to deal with is diastasis recti and pelvic floor connection issues.
There's a whole lot of postpartum issues that come as well. So in pregnancy, there are a lot of pelvic issues, things like that. Postpartum comes with, like you said, diastasis recti, vaginismus. There are a lot of other pelvic floor related issues, lot of back issues, lot of those sort of. So physiotherapy helps bridge the gap between that, that initial stage of when the mother is a little weak, when the mother needs that rest, to when she wants to get a lot more stronger. So this is an in-between phase where you can do gentle guided exercises which are graded slowly. You can do all of those, and then of course you can, do a lot of weighted stuff. You can do a lot of strength training after that. So it helps a mother recover really quick, and the baby is growing. So as the baby is growing, the weight of the baby is increasing as well. So added to all of that are certain biomechanical issues. So breastfeeding comes with its own set of problems. You're sitting in front, sitting all the time, lot of tailbone coccyx pain, lot of upper back pain, things like that. So we help ease, deal with all of these issues.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so important to know. And I definitely think we do recommend physiotherapy every now and then, and a physiotherapist when things are really out of hands, and it's bum is paining, walking becomes difficult. A lot of things can happen sometimes in pregnancy, especially pelvic floor connection, which plays a big role when it comes to birthing. So yeah, I yeah, thank you so much for that advice, and thank you for coming on board on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Yashoda. We're very grateful for you.
Thank you. I think in on the outset I should have thanked you, but nevertheless I want to thank you now. You're doing such a wonderful job of creating awareness. You're educating people, and I'm so glad you had me here. I was actually so thrilled that you even thought of me, and for a mother to share her experience and to share her feelings. You're giving so much space for that. You're giving mothers to tell their story, and for that, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the power. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.